Hey there, horror movie tea sippers.
The following podcast episode will contain spoilers for the movie we are about to review. If you have not seen the movie and do not wish to have anything ruined prematurely, please do not continue to watch or listen until you have seen the movie.
And welcome to the Horror Movie Tea Podcast. Today we are covering Scream that came out. Yes, the newest one that came out in either 2021 or 2022.
Somewhere around there.
Something like that. And this was not a listener request.
No, we are finally caught up so far on listener requests.
Ha!
So we're starting to watch some things that we've put on the back burner.
Yes.
And have been waiting to do. And we've been dying to watch this one, so we figured what better time than when we need to have something for a recording session anyway.
Yes. It's like we do try, we want to cover like more we want to cover newer movies, so our content is more relevant for the time that came out.
We do, and
but,
I mean, we always want to watch them anyway. But,
yeah, so might as well do a podcast.
But the requests that listeners make do mean a lot to us.
Yeah, for sure.
So we will put aside other things to do listener requests if possible.
Yes.
Like, if it's at all possible, we're doing those.
Yes.
So,
for sure.
So we wanted to wait until all of those were knocked out.
Yes. So now you need to request more movies.
Yes. Now that we're caught up, finally.
But before we go into the review, let's grab our cups and talk about tea. So I'm changing things up a little bit. I am doing the Zest tea. I think it's like cinnamon apple.
Yeah, it says cinnamon apple.
Okay. Ma'am, this is my turn. Okay.
I was curious.
So, it's got flowery orange Picot black tea, apple, tea extract, cinnamon, natural cinnamon flavor, and natural apple flavor. And whenever me and Jess have tried this tea before, Jess made the comment that it doesn't have enough apple flavor, and I got the genius idea to add spiced apple cider to the tea. So I have not.
Let me know how it is.
Yes, I haven't tried it yet, but I'm excited. It definitely let me take a little. Yeah, it definitely smells a lot more like apple cinnamon versus just cinnamon.
That's how it should have smelled right off the bat.
Yeah, like the tea alone.
It's tasty. It just needs more oomph. Apple-wise.
Yeah, because like the tea alone, when you smell it, it smells exactly like a Red Hot, and you're just like, whoa.
Yeah, just a little bit heavy on the cinnamon.
Yeah. But what tea are you drinking?
So I am still drinking.
Oh, yeah.
One of my favorites. It's the Bigelow Perfectly Mint. And it's just got black tea and spearmint. Because that's all you need sometimes.
Ooh.
So.
Energies. Okay. For our tea sippers out there, though, grab yourself a cup of tea, sit back, relax, and we hope you enjoy the review. So, Scream. It's
basically like a remake of the first one.
Just
but
updated.
Bringing in the old characters.
Yeah, like you have the two killers twist, and essentially the killers are like, oh, we're fans of the movie, which I think it's like Stab in that universe. It's called Stab or something.
Franchise, yes, Stab.
And so they're trying to like make their own.
They were very upset with the latest Stab movie, Stab 8. They said it went downhill, especially after like the fifth one at one point in the movie. But Stab 8 is where they completely lost it.
Yeah. And And for those who aren't aware, the Stab films kind of like follow the trend of like the Scream movies.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the in-universe Scream, but
It's the based on real events
yeah, yeah,
of that universe.
yeah. So for entertainment, this movie is kind of weird for me because I did enjoy it. Like I'm not gonna it's not a bad movie by any means, but it's almost an exact copy of the original. And I mean at the very end they say that it was in memory of Wes Craven. So they're obviously trying to make an homage to the original film. But normally in those cases, it's like inspiration taken from, not copy the original material and like just tweak it to make it seem like a slightly different film. It's just a very strange reboot. Like it feels like a reboot movie almost, but the old characters are still there. Everybody,
Well, I think that's why they called it a requel.
yeah,
It's like a reboot sequel.
yeah, very very weird. But there's literally scenes in the that happen in this movie that are almost shot by shot happen in the original movie. And so in my opinion, looking at this movie by itself, it's not a bad film. But comparing it to the original movie, I would still pick the original movie over this one. I can't remember. We reviewed Scream. Yeah, we have reviewed Scream, but I don't remember what my rating was.
I don't either, honestly. We're so bad at this.
I know. Well, I haven't finished like writing in our spreadsheet what our previous reviews were. It probably would have been important to do that before doing this review.
Oops.
I think, at least thinking of Scream nowadays, putting into irrelevance my previous rating in the other episode that I did, I think the original Scream, it's not my go-to movie, but I really appreciate what it brought to the genre and its commentary and stuff like that. So for me, it's a pretty solid like 7.5. And this movie, I think I will rate it a 6.5. And the reason why I ding it down that low is because it doesn't really feel like there's a whole lot of extra creativity put in it. I did appreciate that they weren't afraid to kill off some of the people from the original cast, because so many movies that bring in the old cast are like afraid to kill them off. Like they have to figure out some way for them to survive. So I guess in a way that was kind of refreshing, but besides that, it felt like watching the original Scream movie. It was just an updated version. It was just very strange. But yeah, it's like I don't really have any additional commentary. It's hard to put together what exactly to say about this movie. It's like it's about the fandom, and it's like, oh, it should have been this way, and how I love how they're like, oh, fandoms can't be a cult. But I'm like, fandoms absolutely can be a cult.
100%.
Yeah. So it
easily cult.
I feel like they had some interesting commentary on like fandoms and how they can impact the series. Like especially I feel like, and probably the reason why they did it is it was very relevant for them to talk about fandoms right now, because there's so many movies that are bringing back nostalgic things that are very much catering to the fans of that series. Like, I mean, like Sailor Moon,
Dude, they brought back Dune.
Yeah, Dune. And I mean, even an anime that I watched called Code Geass, like they actually rewrote the canon so that way they could have a movie to explain how the main character survived his death, and because so many people were upset. I mean, it was like a satisfying ending, but people were upset that the main character that you follow for 2 seasons, he kills himself because that's the only result he can find to accomplish his goal in the
Thanks
movie.
for that spoiler.
Oh, well, I didn't know you were going to watch
Rude.
it. I didn't know you were going to watch
Rude.
that.
Where was my spoiler alert? Rude.
I didn't know you were going to watch it. But I do recommend that series. Anyways, but the point is, there so many companies are like, what is safe? So they're preying on the nostalgicness of specifically millennials, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
And
I also feel like there's not very much new original content lately.
yeah, they're bringing back all the nostalgic stuff, but they're also specifically catering to like the fans and what the fans would probably want and stuff like that. Like they're keeping things very very safe and not risky. Yeah. So
they're scared to take risks.
Yeah, so it's like this movie does kind of bring that up to light, but it's like I kind of knew that anyway, so it's not like they're bringing anything clever to the table. While I feel like the original Scream, they mentioned commentary that I think at that time people were like, oh, yeah, that is a good point and stuff like that. So it's just hard to say whether or not this movie is clever.
Well, that, not just the first one, but the second one too.
I barely remember the second one.
Oh, I remember that one very well. And a lot of that was the mom, Billy Loomis's mom, had found a random serial killer and got him to agree to do all of that because he wanted the fame. He wanted to be caught because everything is about the trial. Because at the time, that's when a lot of the stuff was really getting going, like really big trials of certain things about killers, about, all these other different fraud cases and everything that are super heavily televised. So even that movie had a lot of really good commentary. This one didn't really show that much new.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that does sound very... So, suffice it to say, while looking at this movie at face value, I enjoyed it. I think it's a pretty good movie overall, but how it contributes to the horror genre or the Scream series as a whole, I don't feel like it adds a whole lot. This movie didn't need to exist, but I also feel like it's worth the watch. But
we're twinsies.
Oh,
because I was gonna give it a 6.5 as well.
Oh, I don't know why I get so excited when we get the same ratings.
Because it doesn't happen often.
Yeah, it has been happening more frequently though.
It has, but I've also talked you into changing your ratings lately too.
So, verdict on spiced apple cider with the cinnamon apple tea. Maybe I'll cut the spiced apple cider in half because it kind of overpowers it.
There's a delicate balance there.
But some of the cinnamon flavor does come out. So it's good. But it's like now I feel like I'm having more apple cider than so I gotta cut back on the apple cider next time.
It is a difficult balance to find with apple and cinnamon.
Yeah.
Because apple is usually a fairly strong flavor, but in tea it's weakened. And cinnamon is such a powerhouse.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah.
So a little bit of cinnamon goes a very long way. So it's really difficult to find just that fine line. And there is a really fine line
yeah.
between not enough apple and too much cinnamon, or way too much apple and not enough cinnamon.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to find that.
Yeah, for sure.
That sweet spot.
Yep.
But I give it a 6.5.
Ooh.
It is an entertaining movie. I feel like it's more memorable than anything after the second one in the series. Again, I remember the first and second ones pretty heavily. Those are the first two those are the main two that I watched. The first one is, of course, the best. No doubt there, no question there. But the second one is still decent, and it makes sense in the series. The others after that are kind of a blur, to be perfectly honest. They're all right, but in a franchise like this, like after you reach a certain point, they're all the same.
The Scream series, though, recommend.
That's a different story, and that one is good. Third season I could do without, but the first two are really good. But this movie will be, in my opinion, probably more memorable than any of the other sequels after the second one in the franchise.
Yeah, I agree.
The only real big problems I have with it are, one, how dare you kill off Dewey?
I know, it was kind of sad, but...
He's like the best character. And he has already survived so much. You can't just cut him a break. Make him leave so he can be safe. He's dealt with enough shit. Poor guy. He didn't deserve that. And I'm a little mad because he's usually the one that makes, like, the best calls and still just ends up shanked. But this time he made a bad call.
Yeah, was it
dead?
Yeah, wasn't it this movie where I was commenting, it's like they start off making really smart decisions and then all of a sudden they have a dumb moment.
Yeah.
And then that's when they get hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, some of the calls just didn't make sense. It made sense because they had to move the plot forward, and that was about it. So, it was just a little frustrating there. Otherwise, most of the calls were decent. And they did keep you guessing on who the killers were. My biggest problem with that will come in the realism scale, because that's where it threw off the immersion for me and got some points deducted from entertainment, because you guys know me. The less realistic it is, the less I'm entertained by it. I want the realness. So, but most of the characters are not that likable. Like, you feel for the originals, of course, because obviously they're the ones that we've seen in every movie ever in this franchise. The main character you kind of feel for, but it's more of an eh. I guess I'll kind of root for you. Seems like you've had a tough go. But otherwise, there are other things that are just a little confusing. They never really explain why she's hallucinating her dead biological father, and especially not while he's all bloodied like he was in the last scenes of the first movie.
Yeah.
It just didn't make sense, and I feel like they could have capitalized on it more if they made that a bigger part of the movie. He was only in a couple of scenes, and they didn't make that much sense.
Yeah, it was kind of weird.
It was just kind of there. Like, if he had been taken out altogether, it wouldn't have changed that much of the movie. It still would have made perfect sense, and it would have been fine. So. But that's just me. Let's go ahead on to realism, shall we?
Yes. So for realism.
This one was hard to score too.
Yeah, because overall, it's fairly realistic, but then some of the dumb decisions are like super dumb.
Like, we had a real hard time last week with Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, but this one, I feel like I almost had a harder time figuring out this one.
Ooh, the cinnamon's coming through. Anyways, yeah, it's very strange, and I'll leave the point to you on the figuring out who the killer is and stuff like that, but
That was a point that irked me.
yeah. So, oof. I feel like overall, it's a little bit more realistic than Tucker and Dale, but and I can totally see people I mean, I can totally see someone becoming killers for as stupid of a reason as, oh, we gotta fix the fandom. Like,
Unfortunately, people have killed others for less.
yeah. So, I think, oh, it's so difficult, but I think, and another thing that kind of gets me, and I don't know if you get this feeling too, but one thing that's always scared me about Scream is, like, with Halloween and Michael Myers, or with Friday the 13th, the killers are always, like, just walking towards the victim. And it's like, yes, that's scary, but then all of a sudden in Scream, to have the killer that's chasing after you as fast as you're trying to run away, that is absolutely terrifying. And that's why, even though I know it's trying to make commentary and in a way make fun of some of the things with the genre, Scream is legitimately a scary movie to me, because you can tell that the killer is just as
They're not
human.
playing around.
But they're they're on a mission. So, but there's times where the killer will, like, get tripped or get pushed over into a closet or something, and whenever they make those little oopsies where they, like, trip or something like that, it kind of seems comedic to me.
Bit. Especially in this one. It did a little in the other ones, but those for the most part still kind of make sense. In this one, they were just really bad at it.
Yeah, I was, like, kind of chuckling and being like, am I supposed to be laughing at this? Like, it's kind of weird. So I think I'm going to give the realism a 5.5. Because it's like the killer's clumsiness is just, it seems a little bit too over the top. Like, it feels like it's a comedy. I don't know if they were trying to if they're trying to shoot for that words. And then the dumb decisions by the characters, but I mean, besides that, overall I felt like I could see something like that possibly happening.
So with this one, again, it is extremely difficult to gauge this one, which is a good problem to have. We don't usually have this kind of problem.
Suddenly it's the perfect mix. I'm so confused.
Not stir it well
I
enough,
did.
or-
I'm so confused. Okay, so whenever I first started, it's like all of the apple was at the top, and I barely tasted the cinnamon. And then in the middle, it was so watery that I just got the cinnamon and no apple, and now I'm getting the perfect balance of apple and cinnamon. I don't know what's happening within this cup. But whatever it is, it needs to calm down.
Are you okay?
No.
Just having an existential crisis.
It's so weird to just take a sip and not know what flavor you're gonna get.
Sounds like a fun grab bag. Anyway. So this one was difficult to gauge, but at the same time, I feel like this one, Tucker and Dale versus Evil, was almost straight up comedy.
Yeah.
With some horror elements, but it's made to be funny. This one, I mean, Scream in and of itself is always meant to kind of poke fun at the horror genre, but it also does try to be scary too. Like, they try to be serious about it.
It's a kind of a weird dynamic.
It is, and it generally works.
Yeah.
It's one of the few that does.
Yeah.
But this one, because they take it more seriously, it's supposed to be a bit more believable than Tucker and Dale vs. Evil.
Yeah.
And this one, it just falls a little bit short, and I feel like the immersion breaks for me a bit more often. So I'm actually going to give it a 4. I know you gave this one a little bit higher than Tucker and Dale. I feel like it was a little bit lower. Personally. Let me go through my reasons.
We can have different ratings. This is
I know,
okay.
I'm just letting
This
you
is
know.
why there's 2 of us.
There's a reason why. So let's start from the beginning, though. So in the very, very beginning, there was darkness. No, I'm just kidding. So when the sister is at the house alone, the killer that comes in is super tall compared to her. And we're supposed to believe by the end of the movie that that was the boyfriend of the main chick. But that was apparently a good drive. So it just seems, timing-wise, like it wouldn't make that much sense. But at the same time, when she's being stabbed multiple times, you hear the sirens are super close, and you see the lights in the window, but you expect us to believe that Ghostface has gotten away in Woodsboro. After shit like this has happened multiple times.
Yeah, that's fair.
I feel like that's a no. Also, the sister didn't die from being stabbed that many times when they've not done any of this before. I don't care how much research you do, you're probably not going to get it right against someone who's living when you've never done it before. Like, they said that they were trying to keep her alive. Like, they weren't trying to kill her right then because they wanted the sister to be lured back.
Yeah, yeah.
So that takes a lot of skill, and I don't believe that they have that skill.
Yeah.
They hadn't made mention of, like, practicing, as awful as it would be, on animals or anything like that. And they certainly didn't do it on people.
Yeah.
So I'm calling BS. Not with that many stab wounds. Like 2, 3, maybe, if they're a bit shallow. But if they were super shallow, then she probably wouldn't have needed surgery.
Yeah.
So, that didn't make that much sense. You want me to stop for a moment?
That's okay. He will probably get the memo that we're recording.
Okay. So, we fast forward to when they're in the hospital. And the sister, the main character, gets attacked. Again, it's a super tall person, and we're supposed to believe that the boyfriend was not the one that did it, that it was probably Amber instead. Amber's super short. She's probably about my height. I'm small.
She's travel friendly.
Yes. Travel size for your convenience.
For your convenience.
So, it was a quote, okay? So it just, they're trying to make it look throughout the movie, throughout all these different attacks, that it's the same killer. And the killer is tall. Most of the other friends are about the same height, so if it's any other one of those people, that would make sense.
Yeah.
You could have any combination of any of those other people, and it would make sense. It would be fine, because they're roughly the same height. But Amber being way shorter than everybody else in the group except the sister that was attacked.
Yeah.
Makes no sense. And it drives me nuts because for a movie that's supposed to be a lot more realistic, there are ways around that.
Yeah.
You can either have Ghostface be shorter in one scene, and most people probably wouldn't notice that much. I'm just a weirdo that likes to make note of these things. Or you can cast someone else that's about the same height as everybody else.
Which I feel like no discredit to either super short or super tall people, but in a slasher movie, I think it's very reasonable to try and cast, like, whenever they're specifically trying to find out who the killer is, I think it's very reasonable to try and get a cast that is as even as high as possible.
Yes.
So it makes it that much harder to figure out who the killer is.
Especially when they're masked the whole time. And more especially if there's multiple killers.
Yeah.
So if you're going to choose one of the tallest people in the group and the shortest person in the group, minus the sister, for them to be the two killers who are supposed to be interchangeable, because there are times when the boyfriend is with the group and they get attacked to throw suspicion off of him, then have them be about the same height. And you can't tell me that she was wearing platform shoes, because you would hear those clodhoppers. They'd be running funny and you would hear it.
Yeah, with as intense as Ghostface runs,
Yeah.
they would not be able to wear those
There's
types
no
of
way in
shoes. Though that could explain the clumsiness.
That was another thing that bugged the ever-living crap out of me. If you're going to be that clumsy about it, then don't even do it. Because your plan is going to suck. Nothing is going to go right. And you're just going to fail miserably. You need to work on your method then, if you're that clumsy, to leave a little less to chance.
God, oh man. That's such a creepy thought, though, of like someone practicing to make sure that they're as skilled as possible before that. Oh, I hate it. I hate it.
Okay, but I mean, not every killer does, but I'm sure the ones that are going to be the most difficult to catch probably do. They're going to be super methodical about it, and they're going to think of every little thing, because there's so many ways to get evidence nowadays.
A lot of ways.
There's so many things you have to think of.
Like, apparently, like, even shedding skin cells now,
Yeah.
they can get DNA from just... And it's like, I can understand, like, hair or fingerprints, but skin cells is like, you just walk and they're just like, poof.
It's probably going to be a little less reliable, but it has been done.
It's like, that's crazy.
And God forbid your victim scratches you.
Oh, yeah.
Or gets or bites you.
You're like
your
done
DNA.
if that happens.
Yeah, no, you're screwed. You're going to have to find a way to get rid of that body completely. Because it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Incineration is about the only way at that point.
Or acid.
Yeah. But that's my take on it.
Oh, man.
So,
we are slowly, like,
every
revealing...
list ever.
Yeah, we're slowly revealing our twisted minds. But anyways.
I'm pretty sure we've revealed that a while back, but this is fine.
Yeah, I think that episode when you're, like, saying how far you'd go to make sure that the attempted killer is dead.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I did forget to mention this. When Dewey shot the ghost face in the hospital, you could tell. You could see that there was Kevlar. There was a bulletproof vest. You could see a bit of the bullet still showing. Those things did not penetrate. So I'm sorry, I'm gonna shoot for something that's probably not protected before I leave that area. Not think, you know what, you gotta shoot the head and go back. And even if I did do that, I'd be standing a little ways away from them so they wouldn't be able to just lunge at you.
kind of going on a slightly different thing. Well, our previous conversation kind of reminded me that I thought of this while watching the movie. But whenever you are defending yourself, there is a point where once the person is incapacitated, if you continue to hurt them, then you are then accountable for being arrested and charged for whatever happens to them, whether they're injured, murdered, or whatever.
You are then the aggressor.
So that makes me curious on like in Scream, or at towards the end, whenever she does like incapacitate, I think is the boyfriend, but then she like keeps on going, or they like shoot him or something.
He was already dead at that point, most likely.
Maybe.
She just emptied the clip.
But it's just that I have questions on whether or not that would have gotten them in trouble for trying to do that.
There would potentially be trouble. It depends on the situation, and it depends on if they decided to try to prosecute her at all. But since there was so much going on, and I can't really see them, since the sheriff got killed and her kid in their own home after she had already called for backup.
Yeah.
Pretty sure they wouldn't even attempt to prosecute. They probably would have just called it good and would just be glad that he's gone.
Yeah.
It does depend on the situation.
Yeah.
There would most likely be some that it wouldn't matter to them that all of that other stuff happened. He was down officially. So at that point, you could disengage. She went a little overboard. It was overkill, technically. So there would most likely be a case there. Whether it would be tried or not is a different story.
Yeah, but one thing is like I know there's like attorneys and then psychologists that will review movies and be like, oh, is this like, would this work in real life? I haven't really seen, and maybe I just haven't searched deep enough. I don't really see like prosecutors or police reviewing horror movies and being like, oh, this would be bad that this main character did this. This would probably get them in trouble. I would be very interested to see something like that.
Yes. What I'd really love, which is one we need to review soon, I would love to hear a cop's take or a prosecutor's take on Spiral.
Yeah.
We need to review it for the podcast soon.
Yeah.
Look for that soon, guys.
Yeah, if we have any listeners out there that either is a policeman or prosecutor or knows anyone that is, please reach out to us because we would love to have some second opinions on what,
to hear takes on
that'd
stuff
be
like
amazing.
that. Please contact us.
That'd be incredible and very helpful too, because it's like you just see all of this stuff happening in horror movies, but it's like you don't really think about the repercussions. It's like, yes, of course, the main characters that survive are going to have a lot of trauma, but the cases where the main character goes sometimes just as over the top as a killer does, it's like it does make you wonder, well, do they get any repercussions? Do they just let it go? Like, what happens to those people?
And again, I'm sure it depends on the situation, but I still would love to hear your take on it.
Yep, for sure.
So.
Well, so so I said on my end is like I think it is worth a watch. It's just not nearly as impressive as the first movie. I would still choose the first movie over this one, but I think it's
100%.
worth at least one watch. Would you recommend this movie?
I would. I agree. It's worth at least one watch. It's not going to be the best in the franchise by any standard.
No.
The first one is obviously the best. I still like the second one in the franchise better than I liked this one. But it's all right. Again, it'll probably be a bit more memorable than the others. The others are, again, a bit of a blur to me. So, I remember bits and pieces of the other ones, honestly. They're all a bit the same after a while.
Yeah.
But it's decent. They could have done better on certain things, but it's worth a watch.
So, well, thank you everyone who joined us today. And please comment on what you thought of the movie. Since this is such a new movie, I would be very curious to know everyone's thoughts. And if you thought their commentary was clever, or if you thought it was just kind of a rehash of the first one. But if you would like to recommend a movie or tea to us, you can, or keep up to date with our content. I need to stop doing ad-lib stuff. You can find us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and most places you listen to podcasts.
And if you'd like to support the podcast, please subscribe, like, and share our content. And we do have a Teespring available if you'd like to support us monetarily. All of the sites mentioned will be linked down below, as well as our tea selections.
You're having trouble too.
I'm so tired right now. For the day. This tea is way too relaxing. I'm ready for a nap. Until the next time, guys, stay safe and stay spoopy.
Bye.
Bye.